So all these salespeople are there, hundreds of salespeople, and the head of engineering stands up and says, I just want you all to know that this next release, which is going out tomorrow, doesn't have any new features, but we have 500 bug fixes. And they got a standing ovation.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Real Agile or BS. I'm your host, Peter Saddington at Agile Peter, and I'm with Bob Hartman at AgileBob from Agile for All. We're here to answer your frequently asked questions about, hey, is this idea real Agile or is it BS? Today, we're going to be attacking one issue. It's about bugs as a metric. I was looking down for a second. I realized I hadn't memorized that yet. But today, we're going to be talking about bug count as a metric. And this can be a little hairy depending on how you contextualize it. I'm going to actually take the first crack at it, bug count as a metric. And so let's set the stage here. What is a bug? Well, it's essentially something that went wrong in a piece of code or in a system. And in many cases, we create a ticket for that bug and we put it back into a backlog or we put it into a ticket issuing system. For me, I like to count bugs as a metric. And the reason is because it allows us to see over time how many issues that we're creating or how many wrong code that we're writing. And it can give us opportunities for conversation around our coding disciplines, our software craftsmanship. Especially for me as an engineer and developer, I can have really poignant conversations around, hey, why is this emerging? Are we not breaking up stories big enough, small enough? Are we not creating a functional value? Are we not creating the right types of test verification frameworks or methods? And so for me, counting a bug as a metric is a powerful way to help the team see how they're accruing potentially technical debt. Now, there's a lot of nuances, a lot of aesthetics within that. And so for me, at the end of the day, I'll say, hey, is counting a bug as a metric real Agile or BS? I don't know if it's real Agile, but it's certainly not BS. Teams can leverage counting bugs as metric as an opportunity to see how they can improve. I'll throw it over to you, Bob.
Well, Peter, I'm not sure we're aligned on this one. So one of the things that I run into with teams is they count the bugs created per sprint. And to me, that's total BS. If it's a bug we found during the sprint, why aren't we fixing it? Why is it even called a bug? It's work that's not yet done. So I think we start pitting the development team members who are software against the development team members who are QA. And it's a sign to me that we're not applying it correctly. If I was development and you were QA and you found a bug in a sprint, rather than filing a ticket, just come to me and say, hey, this isn't working right. This is what I found. Let me fix it and let's finish our sprint. So I think in that case, it is complete and utter BS. Now, if we're talking about bugs that we release to the field that are found within 90 days, that's a different story. And that's something that while we should count it, I'm not necessarily sure I agree that it's real Agile. It's something that can inform our future practices for sure. But it also depends on severity, right? I mean, if I can have 400 bugs that nobody cares about because it's each of 400 different people have this one minor thing they can't do, or I can have one bug that crashes every system. Which team is better, right? So I think it can be misleading if we don't look at the severity. I think it can be misleading if we don't look at a bunch of stuff around it like that. It can also be misleading if we have a bug count that just grows over time because our product got bigger and there's a whole lot more things we're ignoring because they're minor. And then my personal favorite, Peter, is we just had a new release. How many of the old bugs did we make go away that we didn't even know? Right? So I think it can be misleading in a variety of ways, which is why I don't like it. And I particularly don't like it because it tends to be used as what I call a punishment metric, not an improvement metric. I can see how you can use it as an improvement metric, as you said, and I would be on board with that. But too many companies say, oh, you've got more bugs this release than last release, get better, and out comes the whip and something happens. And it's a punishment metric that I just don't like. I would rather have us measuring customer satisfaction with a release rather than bug count in a release. I think customer satisfaction is an actionable metric that we can say we're getting better. Bug count can be misleading, but I think the development team can take the bug count and say, is this meaningful to us? It may not be meaningful to the organization in the context that it is, but it could be meaningful to us for sure. In that case, I think it could be a useful tool.
Absolutely. And you didn't disagree with me. I think counting bug as a metric is not real agile. It's not real agile, but when it comes to the teams, and I think where my context is, and I'll have to qualify this, just like story points are highly relative and contextual to the team, bug counts are highly contextual and relative to the team. And so whether the team uses it effectively or not is really up to them. I think where I was going with it, and this is me not backstepping, but qualifying a little bit, is that management often can leverage bug count as, just like you said, a punishment metric on the team. For me, when it comes from a development standpoint, I think bug count as a metric is important, contextual and relative to the team alone, as a metric that they can use and say, hey, this is what's happening to us. Are we letting our software craftsmanship go down? Is our software discipline going down? Are we not creating the right test suites, or in many cases the right automation? Because in today's world, so much of testing can be automated. And I like the fact that you brought up the idea of developers writing code, QAs finding bugs, which is essentially their job. Their job is to find the issues and, like you said, have those conversations ideally immediately before the sprint ends with the developers and say, hey, I found something that you had pushed to QA or some sort of staging. We did some QA on it. I found this issue. We need to resolve it before the sprint ends. And so certainly that's the ideal, is that we have enough collaboration. We have enough real-time engagement from QA development, maybe even the product owner and other entities as well, that when issues crop up during the sprint or bugs emerge during the sprint, that we're able to squash those and complete those and to fix it. And to fix it essentially before the sprint ends. But again, in my opinion, I say, hey, from a developer standpoint, it's important to see whether the team is independently on their own, focusing on themselves, whether they're creating technical debt over time, and what opportunities within their software disciplines, their software practices and processes can be improved from that. So real agile or BS? I don't think it's real agile at all, but I wouldn't say it's BS when it comes to the team itself. And so I'll leave you with the last word here, Bob.
Well, Peter, I'll tell you a story about a client of mine that this comes into play because it's kind of funny to me. This client was having a lot of bugs in their app. It was a phone app, and just had bug after bug after bug, and they were getting beat up in the App Store about all the bugs. And they had a release that they made that had 0 new features. And they had it happened to come out during a sales meeting. So all these salespeople are there, hundreds of salespeople. And the head of engineering stands up and says, I just want you all to know that this next release, which is going out tomorrow, doesn't have any new features, but we have 500 bug fixes. And they got a standing ovation. Do it right the first time. You know?
Exactly. Well, guys, there you have it. Real agile or BS, bug metrics. Are we gonna put this down as it depends? Is that how we're saying this, Bob?
I would say it's definitely not real agile. It's definitely not
Sure.
BS, but I don't even think it's a depends. I think it's not either in this case.
Fair enough. Well, guys, let us know if you agree or disagree with us in the comments below. We'd love to see what your thoughts are, and we don't mind being corrected. Again, thanks for joining us in today's episode of Real Agile or BS, hosted by myself, Peter Saddington, and AgileBob from Agile for All. Check us out, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.